See, this is what happens when you don't discipline children. This is what happens when you let children think that they know better than their parents. We have a group. It's amazing to me how many parents, especially white parents. I see black parents doing the same thing today, which especially these educated black parents, where their kids are just totally out of control. They have no control over their children. Their children just run wild. And what I surmised when my daughter was in school was that this was being taught in school to rebel against your parents. You turn on the Disney Channel. This is not the Disney Channel that we grew up watching. This is a Disney Channel that says rebel against adults, rebel against your parents are dumb and stupid. They don't know what you know. They don't know anything about technology. And so my thing was always with my young daughter was to let her know that she would never know more than me about an Apple computer or a PC or programming or anything else. She was my stepdaughter, but her parents, always allowed her to be like the lead on technology. So guess what? I busted her one day putting together a party at her father's house because her father was out of town, and we, going along, we didn't, really know what was going on, but I busted her and I felt so bad. But, instead of her mother being mad at her, but check this out, Frank, instead of her mother being mad at her mother was mad at me for busting her.
We've gone from the era of father knows best, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it was an old TV show.
It was an old TV show.
To an era when father never knows a damn thing.
Or father shouldn't be in the home. Black Lives Matter said we don't need a father.
Any mere piece of legitimacy that Black Lives Matter ever had, I think went out the window when they said you don't need a father in the home. Look, going back to Daniel.
Well, you led by. Hold it. Wait a minute. This whole thing is led by two black lesbian chicks. And some African chick who's talking about why we need more Africans in America. No, we don't need more dumbass, po-ass Africans in America with your bad tasting ass food. No. Stay in Africa. I'm serious. And so you got these two lesbian black chicks, right? And you got this black chick who's an African, and her emphasis is to bring more blacks from Africa to America. We don't want them. I don't want any more browning or blackening or whatever of America. As a matter of fact, Frank, we have to look back at some changes that took place in society in the 40s and 50s. When you look back at, say a story like, and you don't really pay any attention to it unless you understand or had relatives in this situation. So these white people had full-time maids and cooks who cooked Sunday dinner for them and cooked dinner every day and took care of their children, and then went home and took care of their own families. Okay. So what am I talking about? A Miracle on, was it 31st Street or 33rd Street? The Christmas thing.
34th Street.
With Chris Pringle. So here's this this working class white woman who's a mid-level manager, and she has a black woman working for her, cooking Christmas dinner and taking care of it, but this is really how America lived. I mean, you look at New York back in the 40s and 50s, people.
Well, I think that's how Hollywood perceived America lived, but I think
some people
have maids.
Some people really live like that. And because my relatives work for them, and it always amazed me how these women got up on Christmas, went to these white folks' house, spent all day with these white people, and then came home and had a wonderful Christmas with their own families. I'm like, where did they get the energy to do it? See, I was always one of those kids who was thinking, because I had to work when I was 7 years old. I was doing adult work, so I knew you know, how tiring it was to do real work. My mother didn't allow me to really have a childhood, and that was okay. I mean, I'm not angry about that or anything, but it gave me an understanding and an appreciation of my parents as well as other parents and other adults, and how they provided for their families, and the energy that it takes, and the love that it takes to, because when you look at these bonds between these young white kids that were raised by these black women and Whoopi Goldberg, the only thing I've ever thought about or said that Whoopi ever made sense was when she talked about her friends in Hollywood would talk about how they were raised by these black women and they were closer to these black women than their own mothers and fathers. And she was talking about the guys in Hollywood, and that's how Whoopi really got over. Did you know that?
Interesting.
That these guys, that she had these relationships with these guys, these friendships, and these guys related to her through the women who through the woman who raised them. You know, I mean, their mothers really didn't raise them; their nannies raised them. So, anyway, she talked about that, and you know, and I see that, and I had friends who, I had women who in my neighborhood worked for white people, but you know, all of that kind of changed, like in the mid '60s, when women were allowed to go into plants and make real money again, because like my grandmother, the only time that she really made any real money was during the war years when the men were away, and she could go in a real plant and make a living instead of being a domestic worker.
It was significant cultural change.
Significant.
I think the part of the problem is, going back to your original point,
Mm-hmm.
is that the concept that you don't need a father and that you don't need any kind of family structure has devastated America. And I had mentioned that Daniel Patrick Moynihan wrote about this a number of years ago. And in fact, he was essentially ostracized from the Democratic Party for some of those very truthful comments, how in many cases, federal programs have done more to harm minority communities than help them by a long shot.
But it didn't take a rocket scientist, and Daniel Patrick Moynihan was no rocket scientist. He wrote that paper, "The Crisis of the Negro." It was a national crisis, the destruction of the Negro family, something like that. I can't remember, but I read it. I read it about 1966. It came out about 63, and my mother sent off to GPO. And in those days, anything that the government printing office published, you could get for free, because guess what? You already paid for it.
Paid for it.
You had already paid. So anything that the government printing office printed, you could just write off, and my mother would write and get these, these books and these manuals, because, I mean, that's the way things worked in those days. How far we have fell, how much we have changed, huh?
That's an understatement. When you look at the attitude the federal government has, and I think this is where the biggest sea change has come in.
What's that, Frank?
The federal government was used to think of it as being the servant of the people. Now, and I think this became prevalent particularly during the Obama years, it considered itself the master of the American people. And that's a significant change in attitude.
Well, don't you think it came about before Barack?
Oh, I think it's been building pretty much since the 1960s. Simultaneous with the rise of the left in the United States. Remember, all this talk about socialism, that sort of thing, people have to realize the essence of socialism, the essence of progressive politicians, is that there's a small elite group of people who assume they know better than you how to run your own lives, and who believe it is their destiny to control you, to tell you how to run your own life. It's odd that the same college kids who want to be free and who talk about, living their own lives are the first ones to go in and support this type of nonsense. And it really is a testament to how bad education has become in our country.
Well, not only has it become bad, it's become pretty much non-existent, because these young folks today are so stupid. And let me just say this: a buddy of mine, a guy named Trey Brady, we were talking one day, and we were talking about being dumb, how dumb people are today. He said, he made a statement that kind of sums up everything. He said, being dumb in 2020 is a whole lot dumber than 1999. And what he meant by that is that we have so much access to information today that for you to be dumb, there's no reason for you to be dumb. There's no reason for you to be uninformed.
Well said. I was talking to a college professor, teaches here in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and his students at City College consist of a heavy percentage of people outside the United States.
Right.
And he noticed that how even in aspects of American history, the folks from outside the United States actually seem to be more knowledgeable than our own citizens, our own students.
Well, that's because these students look at history as old white men. But, you know, at the end of the day, I understand why students feel the way they do about American history. I really do. I can't say that it's justified, but I understand why they feel that they're constantly duped by American historians. And Frank, that's because American historians have consistently distorted the truth about American history. You know, I remember thinking, where did the freedmen work? And you know, the freed slaves, they called them the freedmen. And they worked when they got emancipated, and when the war was over in 1865. Huge numbers of them went to work on the railway, Union Pacific, and those and there was another railroad they went to work for. Just huge numbers of blacks, and they were paid less than white folks, and they did jobs that white folks wouldn't do. Kind of like when the Chinese came over and they put the Chinese in all of these jobs that the white guys didn't want, or that were dangerous jobs. So, but that's not detailed in history. You know, it's like the Mexican-American War. You say, well, what was the Mexican-American War fought over? Well, it was fought over Americans' incursion into Mexican territory with slaves to pick cotton. And Texas was a Mexican territory that white settlers had gone to plant cotton and have slaves work the plantations in the ranches. Well, slavery had been abolished in Mexico since 1829, and they told the Texans, you can't have slaves in the territory. The Texans said, you know, who are you to tell us what we gonna do with our slaves? That's what the war was fought about. But nobody ever talks about it that way. They talk about the Alamo. Please, the Alamo was a mission.
There were actually other aspects as well. There are a number of aspects
Like
that the
what?
Mexican government had promised the settlers in terms of property rights and things of that sort. And really, the Mexican government pulled back on a lot of their promises, not just dealing with slavery.
Yeah, but that was the big
other
issue.
issues as
But
well.
the big issue, Frank, was slavery. That's what Santa Anna wrote as president of Mexico. That's the reason they reneged on the other issues of the agreements, because white settlers were determined to have slaves on Mexican territory, and they thought it was an abomination. That's why they reneged on all the other things. Because
interestingly enough, the leaders of the Texas rebellion against the Mexicans, particularly Sam Houston, refused to join in with the Confederacy.
That's true.
Because of his enormous stature in Texas. He was never arrested or put in jail for treason or anything like that. But Sam Houston was against the Confederacy.
He was.
And interesting background.
He was against slavery. I mean, here's a guy who allowed his slaves to keep the money that they bought. He was a guy who allowed his slaves, if they made money on the side, to keep their money. And the guy was such a good slave master that when he passed away and Mrs. Houston fell on hard times, his number one slave, a guy named Joshua, took all the money that he had made on the side and took it to Mrs. Houston and offered it to Miss Houston. I mean, that's how good a man that Sam Houston was. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about renaming the city of Houston because Sam Houston was a slave owner. I mean, we talk about these things as if it's in a vacuum. It's it's like, here we are in 2020, Frank. 2020, over 200 years removed from the race issue. We fought a war that over half a million men died in. And we're still talking about skin color. Skin color is still an issue.
What's profound about the current state we're in when it comes to these Black Lives Matter, for example, is when you see the destruction of statues, for example, to Ulysses S. Grant, and perhaps most prominently to the Massachusetts 54th, an all-Black regiment that fought to end slavery on the Union side in the Civil War, and their monument was knocked down or defaced in Massachusetts. The level of ignorance that's going on in all of these debates is absolutely stunning.
But
and I think it was Charles Dickens that once said, the most dangerous thing in the world is ignorance. And I think that's certainly the case.
Well, I mean, these young people, if you think something is ignorant, let me read you this. Because I heard this young lady say this, and I haven't been able to download the sound bite. But this is what this young lady said who organized the march here in Chicago, the protest here in Chicago. She said, how did she says this? Oh, here she goes. If you want to hear something stupid, listen to this. The rally was organized by Black Lives Matter Chicago. They talk about the rally. There was no damn rally. I live literally 2 blocks from where Michigan Avenue Miracle Mile starts, and they decimated. That mean, man, they knocked glasses out of Gucci. Anyway, it says here, this march yesterday, this Black Lives Matter rally yesterday was at a police station in the South Loop, not too far from me. And it says that individuals are currently being held in custody, and at least one organizer called the looting tantamount to reparations. How damn stupid is that? She said, I don't care if someone decides to loot Gucci or Macy's or a Nike store, because that makes sure that person eats. How in the hell is going into Gucci or Nike and stealing some apparel buy any food? Then she goes on to say, her name is Ariel Atkins, dumb chick. She goes on to say, and she's saying this to NBC Chicago. It's not like she's saying this to Charles Butler with the mic. She says, that makes sure that person has clothes. Are you talking about stupid? Stupid. She said, then she goes on, quote, this is reparations, she continued. Anything they wanted to take, they can take it because these businesses have insurance. Does that not sound like that dumbass AOC? I mean, that's clearly a classic AOC statement there. Oh, you can go in and steal.
One of the differences in politics these days, it's one thing to have different points of view, but to be actual ignorant of facts and the predominance of so many people, ignorance of actual facts in our government today, it really kind of blows you away.
Well, one of the things that happened that they say precipitated the shooting was this young man name is Latrell Allen. He's no, as I, when you called me, a client had called, and I was on the phone with the client when we were supposed to be starting the show. So I was a little tied up. But she had said to me, I mean, and black people are very angry with this whole Black Lives Matter bullshit because this is not about Black Lives Matter. This is about and thugs and LGBT and Antifa. It's about everything but law-abiding black citizens being abused by the police. So this Latrell Allen guy, who's a thug, was charged with attempted murder after firing a gun at officers. Hello. 20 years old, firing a gun at officers. How come they didn't kill his ass? He falsely then a video was posted on Facebook that falsely claimed that the officer shot and killed a 15-year-old boy. Totally bogus, right? So that shooting prompted hundreds of people to descend on downtown Chicago. So this shooting, Frank, happens like 8 to 9 miles away from downtown. And people pile in their cars and public transportation and head downtown to riot.
Well, I guess there's no Gucci stores down in the suburbs.
No. This is in the city. This is all city. This is like 87th. Chicago's laid out, graphically. So it's kind of like New York. So the 80s would be 8 miles from Madison Street. Our cross streets are Madison and State. Like in New York, your cross streets are what and what to divide north and south. I can't remember. I can only remember once I get there and look at a map.
Well, New York's a very different place because of 5 separate boroughs, and
I'm talking about Manhattan. I'm talking about Manhattan. I'm talking about how Manhattan is laid out. Manhattan is laid out in the street numbers.
Right. Generally, 59th Street tends to be the dividing line between northern Manhattan and southern Manhattan. There's a further dividing line about 125th Street, which separates the main business area of the city from the rest.
Yeah, across 110th Street. Let's see here. So, hundreds of people went downtown and they were smashing windows and running off with merchandise and cash machines and anything else they could carry. Now, the police superintendent, now this guy comes from Dallas, Texas, right? He comes from Dallas, Texas, where people halfway respect the law. He comes here and these people are running all over him, man. And he has a mayor who is totally unsupportive of him,
Well, that's a story with mayors across the country. When you have a mayor like Bill de Blasio in New York, who cheered on the Soviet Union when they put combat equipment in Nicaragua, and who has basically spent a good portion of his time as mayor talking about his hatred of things like, well, property rights, you're going to pretty much understand what you're going to get out of a mayor like that. Hey, Charles, unfortunately, I have to run. It's been great. Let's do this again next week.
Hey, man, as always, privilege and pleasure to have you on, dude.
Same here. Take care, Charles. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Hey, so we're hanging out here, and I tell you, you can't make this stuff up, man. You can't make it up. When you're talking about dumb reparations, the rioting reparations, really? Oh, man. This girl is dumb as dirt. What's her name again? So if I run across her, I can call her out for being so stupid. What's her name? Let's see. What's her name? Her name is Atkins. Ariel Atkins. Woo. I'm sure her mother and father proud of her dumb ass. She is really a dumb person. So let's see what we got over here. Let's see. My boy Pedro said he was going to call in. Let's see if he called in. Let's see here. Nope, he didn't call in. So I got that up. At least I have it up. Yep, I got it up. When I say I have it up, it's a board that I'm looking at, a screen that I'm looking at here. Oh boy. Excuse me. Yesterday, man, I'm glad you guys couldn't see me because I was falling asleep. Because I had gotten up, went to those riots Sunday night. That was interesting. Now, Pelosi and her fellow Democrats say that Russia. Here we go with the Russia again. Russia poses the urgent threat to the 2020 election, and China and Iran don't belong in the same conversation. How stupid is Pelosi stupid or what? I think she's dumb as dirt, as is most of those Democrats, including Biden and Lieberman with his "we need to be nicer to China" routine. I'm like, the hell with China. What we need to do is we need to drop a bomb on China for this COVID-19 attack. Okay, here we go. Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Sunday that threats of interference in the U.S. presidential election from Russia and China are not equal, pointing out the more serious risk with Moscow's efforts to boost President Trump's reelection bid. Remember, they were, you had the intelligence community supposedly talking about they were concerned that President Trump was being recruited by the Russians. I mean, Democrats totally trying to usurp the election, totally trying to undo the election. The Biden campaign, they're talking about bringing on announcing the VP for Biden. Don't know who it's going to be, but whoever it is, it doesn't matter. And why doesn't it matter? Because they're not going to beat Trump. They can't beat Trump. Pelosi wants to talk about Russia being our nemesis. No, China's our nemesis. Always have been, always will be. They're everybody's nemesis. They don't care anything about the Russians or anyone else. All they care about are China and Chinese. They're very clear about that. So Pelosi, in her wisdom, I can't stand Nancy Pelosi. She urged intelligence agencies to put more information out there on the specific nature of the threats. How are they going to do that if these are supposed to be threats? An intelligence report last week said Russia was already using a range of measures to undercut Trump's Democratic challenger. You can't get any sympathy, Joe. That's not going to get you any sympathy, dude. We just don't like you. You're a liar. You're a pretender. They were trying to undercut Joe Biden and promote Donald Trump with misinformation on social media. The White House and that said that Iran is also hoping Trump will lose. So what? Pelosi said trying to equate China and Russia on the threat of foreign election interference doesn't tell the story. The Chinese, they said, prefer Biden. We know that. But that's why they're saying, but they have not really been involved in the presidential election. The Chinese, they say, prefer Biden. Of course they prefer Biden. Biden's a weak sister. Trump's national security advisor, a guy named Robert O'Brien, said Sunday that the U.S. is taking any serious threat to U.S. elections seriously and said that China has engaged in cyber attacks and phishing with respect to our election infrastructure. What could be any more serious than that, Nancy? Nancy says, "Well, they're not serious. They're harmless." That sounds very racist to me, Nancy. Are you saying that the Chinese are inferior in terms of disrupting our elections because they're Chinese? Sounds awfully racist to me. But Mr. O'Brien was very clear. He said, we're not going to put up with it. We're going to take every action necessary to keep folks out, whether it's China, Russia, or Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, or others. He's just clear. It's just a matter of fact. They're withholding from the public specific intelligence information about the threat of foreign interference in American politics. And they should. The facts are chilling, said Richard Blumenthal. This is another leaker. He's a leaker like Dianne Feinstein. Feinstein is one of the biggest leakers the country's ever had. This woman should be in jail. He had a driver for 20 years who was a Chinese spy. Chinese spy was her driver. True story. Look it up. So Blumenthal. So he's going to try to blame this on Trump, right? Like they try to blame the Russian interference on Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a candidate. He didn't guide any of the defense agency. That fellow and Clapper and these other idiots who are all sitting there, Clapper. Well, we had the Russian interference. What did you do about it, asshole? It's your job to defend the country against Russian interference. Duh. Just saying, as the kids would say. Just saying. But the facts are chilling. Blumenthal wrote in an op-ed published Friday evening in the Washington Post. He said, I believe the American public needs and deserves to know them. The information should be declassified immediately. No, it shouldn't. Shouldn't be declassified. Americans does not need to know. Could you imagine if the plans for D-Day had been declassified? And we're going to let the American people decide what we need to do on D-Day, whether or not we should go. We're going to lose anywhere between 3,000 and 6,000 men on the beaches of Normandy. And we need to let the American people know so that they will be prepared. How stupid is that? Blumenthal needs a shoe shined in his rear end. See, that's what some of these people need. They need to be hogtied. They need to be tarred and feathered. They need to be taught a lesson. Violent one. Not because what they're doing is not harmless. They're destroying the country, the very fabric of the country, very foundation of what we do as Americans. Okay, so let's go over here and we're going to fast forward to Fox News. It's an article that I saw over there that was breaking. It's not breaking now. Let's see here. But, oh man, new tabs, not responding. Okay, cool. This stuff here. All right, here we go. All right. This was breaking when I first came on. It's something I really wanted to chat about if I can pull it up. Wow, young man fell off a bridge and fell into Diversey Harbor. I go to Diversey Harbor all the time. And this young man fell over in there. They just pulled him out a few hours ago. Okay. So with all the looting that's going on here in the city, all the looting that's going on here in downtown, business owners, restaurant owners say, I'm just not opening back up. I'm out. One business on Magnificent Mile, a guy named Ropan, what's his last name? I want to get it right. It's Dejurian. He's Armenian. He tells American News that the rioting and violence has stopped patrons from the area. It's very disturbing and very scary. He goes on to say the streets are empty. Now, we're talking about downtown Chicago. We're not talking about the trouble spots. We're talking about spots that are usually safe. And he says streets are empty. And this time of year, hotels would be full. The streets would be full. The rioting and violence have stopped many people from coming downtown. Well, they couldn't come down anyway. He said, we're a big target down here. Business is terrible. Business has been terrible for 8 months. We had January and February where we do nothing, and then COVID-19 shut down, and now this. It's been challenging. He said, but we're strong here in Streeterville. That's right across the bridge. So hopefully he can pull it out. But the other night, we had $60 million in property damage here in Chicago alone, and 13 police officers were injured. Amazing. And they were shot at. Now, they caught the young guy who shot at them, thank God. But man,
Chicago on edge as the city there deals with rioting, looting, vandalism, gun violence, looters targeting big-name stores on the Mag Mile like Gucci and...
Come on. I just took it off. I took it offline. And that focus needs to be on education, cleaning up the city. Our schools are not going back. I think our schools aren't going back until October, November, then on a hybrid basis or something like that. It's crazy. Can't run a school system that way. Can't run a country that way. But I just hope we have fair elections. That's what I want to see. Fair, honest elections. I don't want Joe Biden as president. That's for damn sure. And I don't know anyone else who does either. That's for damn sure. So this outpouring of, oh man, somehow Joe, I got something to do here, a little housekeeping. So excuse me while I take to the sky, do a what do you call that guy? What's his name? Excuse me while I kiss the sky. No. Purple haze all in my brain. Let's see. I got to get Pedro. Let's see here. Pedro's telling me that I'm not broadcasting out on Red State. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Sometimes you just have to go out and do it yourself, get it done. You know, it is what it is. You know, Scott's busy. I know that.
To say they have enough money for this, that, and the other.
Yep, he's right. It is Scott. Yep.
Meanwhile, we are also finding out.
Yep, I got it. So, yeah, I get that. We got the override. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with the show. And I'll continue with the show and go to this override a little later. Let's see here, because I'm hearing myself out here. I'm stay right here, but I can hear myself out there on Red State Talk Radio. I know you guys can too, or you should be able to. Let's see, because I am there broadcasting. Let's see. Go to the second. Go to the Encore channel. Encore channel. Encore channel. Yep. Yep. There we go. I'm on my way to the stars. Yep. Let's see here. I think they just said the Big Ten is canceling its schedule this year. Pretty sure that's what it said. The Big Ten was canceling. It's too bad. It's too bad. But hey, we'll get over it. We'll make it up next year. But I don't think we play Notre Dame next year. Glad we played them last year. That was a good game. Helped us out quite a bit in the standings, because you need those standings, dude. Have to have those standings. Scott Adams. Yep. Sure enough, he's right there. That's what it says. Oh, well. You can't make this stuff up, people. You can't make it up. I tell you that. So maybe I'll hit Pedro and tell him that I'm there. It says Scott Adams, but I'm really broadcasting.
And we have to do it,
yep.
In our communities and try and make our friends.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shove off and cut this show short because I'm tired and I'm not broadcasting. So later. Okay. Gator. Here we go. Bum, 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 bum. Let me call Scott. Okay, here we go. Scott. Okay, no. Here we go. Okay. Policy number. Okay. P. Yep. I can quit broadcasting because I can. Renee for Tomzell. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Copy. All right. So I'll go over here and Okay, that's that. Okay, so I'll go over here and I'll call my boy Scotty Adams. Scott, what's up? Dun, boom, boom. Boom, do, 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 do. Yeah, we're gonna try to figure out what's going on. Hey, what's going on, Scotty? Hey, look, Scott, you're broadcasting over me. I can hear me cutting in and out sometimes, but that's what's going on. I just wanted you to know that. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off on the Winamp. Solve the problem? Yeah, it is. But, I mean, you're busy. Man, what am I going to do with you? Huh? Hey, man, I had some earlier this morning. I got up and fixed some grits and some eggs and bacon. Oh, it was so good. And then I had toast with. You ever have Irish butter? I forgot. I can't really say this on the air, so I have to watch myself. How you know? It cuts in and out. But I think I know I'm sending. I know that, and I can hear myself when I cut over there. But mm-hmm, could be, but I don't know what. Okay. 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 Hey, well, look, man, I'm good. I'm just. Charles Butler. Yeah, but I mean, what can an engine say? Hey, man, have you ever watched this TV series Hell on Wheels? Man, that was a good TV series. I'm just binge watching it. It was really good. It was really good. It's about six seasons. That was really good. I never watched it or never even heard about it. And then I started binge watching it over the weekend. Man, man, it was good. It's a Western. It's a Western. It's set about 1865. It must have been 2006. That should be fun. Where are you going to stay? Delano? Try to what? Okay. I stay at the Delano when I go down there. Yeah, that's where I usually stay in the Delano. A buddy of mine owns a hotel. Used to own a hotel down there. Used to stay in his hotel for free. No, no, nope. He sold it. He's yeah. I like Miami. I got friends down there, relatives too. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh yeah. Till he wasn't. Almost doesn't count. Well, I think that what I think is going to happen is that the Democrats are going to try to steal the election, and they're going to get their clock handed to them because the mail service cannot handle the kind of uh, uh, pressure that's going to be put on the mail system. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about Susan Rice? Yeah, I think so. I think that's a lose lose. I mean, she married to a white boy, so she gonna get no black votes. But what's gonna keep Kamala Harris from walking in being a vice president is uh, all of her political mentors have told her don't be vice president. Well, yeah, he used to tear that pussy up. He told me that was some sweet pussy. Flipping what? Bro, she's going down. Bro, 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 she going down. Bro, she going down because you know what I'm getting ready to do? I'm getting ready to go to the Whopper and get me one of those 2 for $5 Whoppers and make it one sandwich. That's what I'm going to do. But Susan has a lot of baggage with her. A lot of baggage. What did he say? Why? Mm-hmm.